Enbrel has been studied here, Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, showing that Enbrel contains biosensors and microelectronics, okay? So they're saying it, not I'm saying it, but I'm finding what they are saying. And you can see how extremely agile these are. They are controlled by artificial intelligence. They're able to maneuver extremely well through the blood, and they're intelligent. So these are literally computer chips that are mobile, that can maneuver and go through the body's blood. People are not aware that they're changing, but they're being transformed via the electronics in their system.
Hey guys, Sean from SGT Report here. That was Dr. Anna Mihalcea. And as you guys know, they're putting this nanotech in everything. This is the micro-dust weaponry, stealth nanoparticles unleashed for Nanoterror as they terrorize the entire globe with this hellish technology. Get the word out, friends. We must awaken the masses because people have this stuff in their blood, whether they've been vaccinated with the COVID-19 bioweapon or not. But you can get it out. Before we start this important broadcast, just a quick word about our sponsor. We live in the most advanced era in human history. There have never been more medical breakthroughs than there are right now. So why are millions of Americans more unhealthy and overweight than they've ever been? According to U.S. board-certified physician and expert nutritionist, Dr. Amy Lee, one of the main reasons is 3 harmful foods that have been passed off as health foods all over the country. And wait until you hear this. Because these foods can cause weight gain, clog your digestive tract, deplete your energy, and wreck your skin, they're banned in other countries, yet shockingly, they're still legal in the U.S. And it's time someone shined a light on what they are. And Dr. Amy Lee does just that, while explaining how the side effects from these foods are wreaking havoc on the health of millions of Americans. The great news is it's easy to stop and reverse this damage by simply learning which foods to avoid and how to spot them. And by doing so, you can experience easier weight loss, smooth digestion, and vibrant energy. To find out these 3 fake foods, go to 3harmfulfoods.com/SGT. That's 3harmfulfoods.com/SGT. I'll leave a link below this video. After years of extensive study, Dr. Amy Lee put together a revealing video totally free to the public, so you never get duped by these foods again. Find out all you need to know to regain control over your body at 3harmfulfoods.com/SGT. The link is below this video. Hey friends, welcome back. Thank you so very, very much for tuning in. It's Sean from SGT Report. I hope God's bounty is finding you today with many blessings because we're all under a multifaceted attack, as you know, and we have a lot of breaking news, important developments to share today with my returning guest and friend, Dr. Anna Mihalcea, internal medicine specialist and president of AM Medical LLC. Anna, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me and allowing me to update you.
Well, you know, I love the smile on your face. It really belies what's going on beneath the surface. Dark field microscopy on the fluorescent filaments coming out of COVID-19 unvaccinated individuals. More on that in just 1 second. Discussions of Argentinian COVID-19 bioweapon analysis finding building blocks of self-assembly nanotech. This is all from Dr. Anna Mihalcea. Dark field microscopy of Pfizer's Enbrel shows nano antennas, micro robots, self-assembly nanotech comparable to C-19 bioweapons, microelectronics for patient monitoring. See, here's the rub, friends. They're not stopping. They continue to pollute our bodies with this stuff, even through dental anesthetics, as I've discussed with Diane Kaiser. Nonstop spherical, rubbery, self-replicating blood clots after dental anesthetics. Assembly stopped with EDTA-IV and vitamin C, a case report. Here's the good news, and we're going to get to this in this interview, friends. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has ruled that the mRNA COVID-19 jab is not a vaccine, and therefore Pfizer and Moderna do not have immunity from lawsuits. Back to my guest before we play that clip from Dr. David Martin. That's really great news, Doc. We can finally take these manufacturers to task for lying to we the people with a bioweapon masquerading as a vaccine. This is really good news amidst a lot of that bad news, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we have to keep pushing and we have to keep fighting in court. I'll talk later a little bit about, also Dr. Joseph Sanson's lawsuit, where I also provided an affidavit. So there's a lot of stuff happening for sure. And good news coming our ways. We just can't let up in the fight.
No, the fight continues because they're unrelenting on their end, and they are rolling out these deadly products through other venues. It's not just the COVID-19 bioweapon masquerading as a vaccine. They're rolling it out in multiple different venues. And let's play this clip from Dr. David Martin just to level set what this Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling means.
Let's be clear on the practice of law versus the letter of the law. The Ninth Circuit technically has now remanded the case back to the lower courts, saying that the Los Angeles Unified School District teachers can in fact bring lawsuits with respect to the vaccine mandate. That is what the technical letter of the law is. The opinion, which is actually part of precedent-setting opinion, and this is the key distinction I want to make, the opinion makes it unambiguous that the Ninth Circuit has determined that Jacobson is misapplied in this particular instance. And what that suggests is that for the first time, the illusion that public health interest was being served has finally been pierced by an appellate court. And that is a watershed moment, because now what we can do is we can now bring legitimate statements that say that the manufacturers willfully misled the public by mislabeling these things and calling them a vaccine. And by the way, that's a violation of the Federal Trade Commission Acts in the United States. And it's a violation of the Deceptive Medical Practices Acts that are largely in every civilized country. So the good news is we have that veil to pierce. But more importantly, and this is the very important piece, with the Ninth Circuit unambiguously saying the Jacobson waiver is not going to pass muster in their view, what this also does is, to your point, starts to give us the cracks that we need to pierce the liability shields against vaccine manufacturers and against the individuals, employers, pharmacists, doctors, nurses, hospitals that actually injected people. For the first time, we actually now have the ability to say that the Ninth Circuit has held that Jacobson was misapplied. This did not stop infection, did not stop transmission. And as such, the public was willfully misled, which is a crime. And under the criminal statute, Maria, all the liability shields fall away.
Wanted to play the entire clip because Dr. David Martin has been fighting these people for years now. I mean, this thing is already 4 years old, this story, and the normies still don't know the half of it, Doc. They don't know that this thing is a bioweapon masquerading as a vaccine. I got neighbors that still don't realize that. They think I'm crazy when I try to inform them what this thing really is. But there's a sea change here. Where should we go from here?
So absolutely. Well, what I want to explain to people is also all of how things tie together to what's called technocratic transhumanism. And I'm going to share my screen and show some images, because what is really important is that this, obviously, we know has been planned for a long time, and people don't quite understand that who is in charge are people who are really involved in the technology sector. They're advising the military, they're advising the DOD. So this is a very important book, because these people, the technocrats, they call themselves futurists. And in the 1970s, a book was published by Alvin Toffler that talked about future shock, where he explained that the technological advancement is going to be so fast and so rapid, and society will change in a way. And basically, these futurists were saying that in the future, like Ray Kurzweil discussed, nanorobots will be swimming in people's blood and really taking over surgery, taking over all kinds of functions. And then there was 50 years later a book published called Aftershock, where the main technocrats from Silicon Valley, like Ray Kurzweil and others, discussed where they were now and what they were expecting in the next 5 to 10 years. And the reason why it is important is, for example, Rebecca Costa, who was in Aftershock, she's a sociobiologist and a futurist. and has worked with venture capital for 40 years. She discussed that healthcare is undergoing a disruption where consumable nanorobots are making genetic testing easy, and then they're communicating the diagnostic information to artificial intelligence, are able to perform microsurgery in the body, and that the ultimate plan is to make all healthcare providers obsolete. What is also important is that the same nanomedicine they're expecting will put an end to the pharmaceutical industry and will also disrupt other sectors like agriculture. And they were literally talking 2025 up to 2030. The next thing they said was self-healing polymers, which is these polymers that we've been seeing in the blood will also magically return broken products into their original shape. It will disrupt all consumer industry, from tools to, they were saying how these polymers would repair naval ships that would self-heal in the ocean, and self-healing toasters. They also predicted the instant bioidentification will be used, which is digital identity, to charge people's bank accounts. And the way they would do this is through total surveillance via sensors, cameras on the mobile phones, facial recognition, and that all of this will eliminate physical currency, which will initiate full digital slavery. And that they were expecting that by 2030, 30 to 50% of jobs will be performed by robots, and humanoid robots are already rolled out. So people need to understand that right now we are in this time frame where Ray Kurzweil is saying, literally, he came out this month saying that the singularity is minutes away, meaning that the singularity is the time where artificial intelligence is more intelligent than all humans combined on planet Earth, and that AI will take over the automated functioning of our society, and ultimately the goal is to replace humanity. So this idea of robotics will then, for example, make billions of people unemployed that then no longer have a purpose, and we're supposed to left to die. And it's important to understand who's planning this, because it's Ray Kurzweil who advised the military in regards to their technology for the future. There's a fantastic article written, it's now from 2018, but it discusses the nano mafia. And it says that nanotechnology there's a global network of organized crime in which the CIA, the Department of Defense are also involved. And what it is about is that this nano mafia, they are deploying this stealth weapon that nobody can see, but it is used for people to enslave people, because they can use Wi-Fi, they can use the economic power, again, through digital identity, and the media, they can completely deny it, meaning not speak about it. We know even in the United States, hardly anybody is speaking about it, which is, I'm so grateful to you that you're allowing this topic to be discussed. And it's discussing that the nano mafia aims to become the greatest organized crime network in the world, because that will affect all of the world society, because it will transform it invisibly. This is the fourth industrial revolution that Klaus Schwab talked about. So in 2011, there was this presentation leaked from NASA, and they were talking about the future of warfare in 2025, which is just around the corner. And they talked a lot about nanorobotics. Smart dust is something that's a biological sensor that can be aerosolized via geoengineering. And I'm going to talk a lot about how this weaponry is being sprayed on us, and that the polymers that we're finding from the shots that are now being replicated and found as these rubbery clots, that is also being sprayed via geoengineering programs. And so nanotagging to put put attack on everything and everywhere, to have total biosurveillance of everything. That was their plan. And as Mark Steele discussed, that LiDAR, which is a form of radar, allows to identify people and even target them from satellites in space. And again, these molecular and biological sensors and nanotags were planned to be deployed as very specifically legal weaponry. And it discusses microdust weaponry, which is distributed as an aerosol and inhaled into the lungs, that can then bore into the lung tissue and have pathological missions. Well, that's what we saw with COVID-19. We know it wasn't a virus. And this stuff can also have explosives that it's carrying. So I just want to give a little bit of this background information, because they're saying that this is legal warfare, microwave interception, and then using psychological effects even via these kinds of warfare modalities. It is in addition to psychological warfare, it's all invisible. And here, for example, they're discussing the bioweaponry, which is anti-personnel, which is a biovirus into a biocomputer. So you can actually hack the human system as if it was a computer system. So let me kind of move forward here, because what we've been finding in the blood is also being validated now in peer-reviewed scientific articles. It is called microplastics. It is not being discussed in the context of the COVID shot rollout. But look at what they're saying here. They are discussing that they found these microplastics in human blood, and they evaluated the types of polymers. And it turns out that they looked at the blood of healthy volunteers who had no symptoms whatsoever, which is what I've been talking about now for the last 3-4 years. And 90% of them, they found these microplastic polymers, and that polyethylene was the most common. Well, guess what? Polyethylene glycol was used for the lipid nanoparticle for the COVID shot, and polyethylene has been sprayed via geoengineering on humans as well. But what was interesting was they identified that these particle sizes were up to 800 micrometers, which is something that you can see with the dark field microscope, like these filaments that you see behind me. And 79% of them were white or clear. Again, that's very consistent with what we're seeing. And these things are so large. Some of them were 3,000 micrometers in length. For comparison, a red blood cell is 5 to 7 microns. That these can cause heart attacks and strokes, and definitely cause blood clots that are not dissolvable. The other interesting article that was published was this, that the plastic food packaging from 5 countries contained these endocrine metabolism disrupting chemicals. Why was it interesting? Because the polymers that they identified were, again, polyvinyl alcohol, polyethylene, and these polymers, they figured out, were excreting one polymer. For example, polyvinyl alcohol had up to 9,936 chemical signatures in one single product. So let me explain what that means. It means that they have one plastic polymer, but that polymer contains all of these chemicals that can disrupt your hormones, that can have toxic abilities. And so the food packaging in this case was actually leaching into the food, and they found these same chemicals from the plastic in the food. Imagine if you have these polymers in your body floating around in your blood, that then will also distribute these chemicals. This is why we have people who have all these hormone disruptions. Endocrine disruption also causes cancers, causes accelerated aging. So again, here's another confirmatory aspect in the scientific literature that says, yes, we've been correct.
Now, the endocrine disruptors can also cause sexual confusion, right? The sexual dysphoria we're seeing amongst young people, in large part maybe due to this, Anna?
Sexual dysfunction, dysphoria. If you have high estrogen levels in boys, you can have also decreased fertility in both sexes. I mean, this affects everything.
All right. So it's all part of the depopulation plan. And just an anecdotal side note, too, if we went back a slide or two and we just think about smart dust, geoengineering, chemtrails, I just want to share an anecdotal story with the audience real briefly. So we got these new Adirondack chairs I was excited about for the backyard. And on day 2, after having them set up, they were absolutely covered in a dust. And I mean, just caked. And I thought, what the heck is this? Wiped them down. And about a day later, I came across my buddy Eric's channel, Fire Medic 8 on BitChute, and he did a video report about people finding quote unquote pollen all over their chairs, all over their cars, all over the place. And he tested the pollen and found nanotech and graphene and all sorts of weird stuff in the pollen. So I wish that I had seen that video prior to wiping down those chairs. Maybe I would have sent him samples of the quote unquote pollen I found in my yard. I just share that with folks, Anna, because I want people to understand we are under a multifaceted attack. I mean, from every conceivable vector point, Anna.
That's exactly, and thank you so much for sharing that, because, you know, this is what I'm also trying to explain to people. It's like, look, this is real. Everybody's experiencing this. This isn't like some made up story. This was really a bombshell. So Clifford Carnicom, my former research partner, what he did, he isolated from blood the origin of genesis, which he calls cross-domain bacteria, or it used to be called Morgellons, and he cultured it, and it grew the polymer. So what you see here of a picture, this is this in a cultured dish, this polymer that is like a rubbery thing after an incubation of 30 days. And he isolated 3 different polymers, and guess what they were? They were polyvinyl alcohol, which is plastic. He also found polylactic acid and a polyamide, which is nylon or silk, which we found in the shots, genes for spider silk, spinoidrans. But literally this stuff has the exact same chemical signatures than when we analyzed the rubbery clot from the deceased people that had the shot. So remember, this was this rubbery clot, and we did he did microscopy on it. It looks exactly like what we find in the blood. And then we did near-infrared spectroscopy. This was a vaccinated clot on a living person. But if you see here, vinyl, which is polyvinyl alcohol, polyenes is the polyethylene, and then these primary aromatic amines and polyamides, that's the nylon and the spider silk. So I just want to tell people, literally, this micro robot Morgellons-like thing was isolated from blood, and it created this polymer plastic, and he figured a way how to culture this. I mean, this is a big deal, and it's exactly correlating chemically to the rubbery clots that we find in the vaccinated who are dying with the clots.
Would you describe those clots as self-assembling nanotech plastic-based clots? Or is it not even nanotech? They're so large, I guess it's not.
Well, so it is in a form nanotechnology, and I'm going to show some video footage here in a way how they are. So, but a polymer, what this is, it is basically a Lego block of a plastic, and it just starts growing. And the start signal are metals, and we know that the metals were found in the shots. And it will just continue to grow, like he was able to culture it. So if you give it all of the substrate that it needs, which it uses us as a substrate and an energy source, then the stuff just keeps growing.
All right.
And so here's another example of this. This was one of my patients who had to have dental work, and we know that dental anesthetics contain this stuff. We've analyzed it, and many people around the world have analyzed it. And so after the injection, the tooth that was pulled, she had for 3 days these round rubbery clots that just continued to come out, more than 20 in a night. And the biological dentist didn't know what to do. And so she captured them. And you see, I mean, it's like a perfectly round, rubbery thing. That's not what blood should be doing. And I sent her to get a EDTA chelation, and it stopped within 30 minutes with vitamin C, which, by the way, in the Moderna patent, it discussed that is the stop signal to stop the proliferation of the polymers. But I just want people to know that this is an injectable medications, and this is truly happening. Here's what you were talking about. So this is really what's been shown in different studies in the aerosols of the geoengineering. What is being sprayed? So you have the heavy metals like aluminum, arsenic. You have all kinds of bacteria and pathogens. So this is biological warfare. You have the coal fly ash, which also has, carbon nanotubes, and there's graphene that's been found that's being sprayed. Then also red blood cells and iron, lead, mercury, but fiberglass, nanotubes, and polymers specifically, because I've also shown patents that show that in order to control the weather, they're injecting these polymers into the stratosphere. And it turns out that the polymer chemistry is exactly the same like in the COVID shots. It's polyethylene, it's polyvinyls. And again, you have other severely pathogenic pathogens, some things that they couldn't even identify, and they're spraying uranium. And I can attest to that as a certified chelation practitioner. More than 3 years ago, I never pulled uranium out of people. Now almost everyone has it, and they're spraying it on us. And I believe it has also something to do with the explosion of cancers that we're seeing. So here again, you can see the intersection between the geoengineering warfare and then the shots.
Can you go back to that just for 1 second? I should probably get Dane Wigington back on the show to talk about this, because geoengineering is real. Chemtrails are real. We know what they're doing, but not in totality, according to this. I mean, I've never seen these many things named as being part of chemtrails. I mean, we talk about barium, we talk about aluminum, we talk about the things that we knew were in chemtrails, but this is just a witch's brew of evil. Of course, they'd be spraying us with this, because if they can get away with spraying us with aluminum and barium for decades, why not throw in mercury? Why not throw in, what else is in here?
Mold spores,
graphene, polymer fibers. I mean, it's just a witch's brew, Anna. I mean, this is absolutely depopulation by design. You've given us the map here.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's important for people to understand it's coming from everywhere. Here's remember the Moderna patent. This is the lipid nanoparticle composition. They have in there stealth nanoparticles that have the exact same chemicals that we're finding in geoengineering, that we're finding in the clots. Polyethylene, polyvinyl alcohol, which is plastic, polycyanoacrylates, that's super glue, polyurethanes, again, plastic. So I just want people to understand it's in their patents that they are able to put this in there. And that also goes along with the analysis that Todd Callender showed, 146 plastics in a Pfizer vial. Here, I want to explain this. This is Clifford Carnicom's work. He sent the environmental filaments to a lab, and he found all of these metals as part of the polymers, which is important. So we have the metal aspect and we have the polymer aspect, and together they're creating biosensors, which is what Morgellons really was, that are also making people ill. But you have here the aluminum, the barium, the chromium, potassium, nickel, titanium, which is the start signal with aluminum to start the polymer growth. So I'm just showing how the two are interrelated. This is super important. So this was a major breakthrough. There's a fantastic Argentinian group, biotechnologist Lorena Di Blasi and Dr. Marcela Sangorin. They're at the university there in Argentina, and they investigated many different vials of the COVID bioweapons. And what they did was they did fluorescent analysis. So fluorescence is what we found, when you turn on the UV light, all of a sudden you see the orange glow and the filaments. So they looked at the contents of the vials and applied these different fluorescent light waves. And it turns out that each of the shots, Covilo, Pfizer, they had the same fluorescence like graphene. So they got a vial of graphene from Sigma Aldrich, a chemical manufacturer, and then they compared the two. And so it had the exact same wavelength signature in all of the shots, suggesting graphene. And the reason why this is important is because when you do mass spectroscopy and you find carbon, you don't know if it's graphene or if it's carbon or if it's something else. But this indicates the presence of graphene is more indicative of it. And then they did further analysis and they showed 54 different types of undisclosed elements, most of them metals. And the reason why this is so groundbreaking is, look at here, Sean, uranium, which is a radioactive element. And in the Moderna patent, it says that they can put in radioactive elements are in Moderna, are in Comirnaty, are in these other vaccines. And, uranium, again, a radioactive material will increase cancer rates substantially. The other thing that they found that is absolutely, for me, it was such a breakthrough that they did this, were lanthanides. Lanthanides are rare earth metals like lanthanum, europium, gadolinium, but also neodymium. And what is so important about them is, number one, they're used for nanotechnology, but number two, they're magnetic and paramagnetic. Remember all the people who got the shots that had the spoons and the forks attached to them? Yeah. Neodymium is that which has been found. Hold on, I'll show you here. You see right there, molybdenum. Here, the neodymium that has been found here, for example, in AstraZeneca, that is the strongest magnetic substance on Earth. And so this would explain that these people weren't crazy, and it wasn't just the graphene, but it was also these heavy metals together with the lanthanides. Why is the finding of the lanthanides important? Is because they're fluorescent. They are emitting light signals. In fact, when you combine lanthanides with graphene, it's been shown that biosensor technology was so much more enhanced. It's used for quantum dot technology. So this is absolute confirmatory to everything that we have been finding also in the blood and in previous analysis. And I don't even have to say that all of these metals are toxic. When you are injecting, titanium, silicone, all of these different things, but why are they there? They are part of semiconductor nanotechnology to transform and fuse humanity with technology.
Guys, apologies for this real quick break. In a word about our sponsor. Gold has been on an epic, nearly unstoppable run. It's happening. Central banks are ditching the dollar and U.S. treasuries and buying more gold. The good news? It's predicted that gold will go up a lot more. UBS has even predicted a $5,000 per ounce gold price. And Noble Gold Investments phone has been ringing nonstop. Everybody wants to protect their retirement with gold, and you can do the same. Now, it should be said that there are no investment guarantees. Do your own due diligence. But Noble Gold Investments can help you secure gold to protect your future. From the first day you call Noble Gold Investments, you'll work with a dedicated all-American expert. So whether you're a beginner or an experienced investor, Noble Gold Investments will make sure you get all the help you need. But that's not all. This month, Noble Gold Investments will give you a free 1/4 ounce gold standard coin if you open a qualified account. So go to noblegoldinvestments.com right now. That's noblegoldinvestments.com, or call them directly at 877-646-5347. You'll be glad you did.
To transform and fuse humanity with technology.
Anna, let me ask you something. Could you just go back to that for 1 minute?
Yes.
Okay, so to me, this is suggestive of an off-world intelligence. And let me explain what I mean by that. If an alien species, which I don't believe in, I don't think any of these are off-world. I think they're intra-world, and I think they're demonic. But if an alien species came and visited humanity from a distant galaxy, and we all believed it, and we all believed they were benevolent, and they promised to give us a magic concoction that would cure humanity of all that ails it, and then we were to discover what was in that concoction, and we got a list like this, we would no doubt conclude that this is a hostile species that has lied to us and is trying to kill us, case in point, the ingredients in their magic concoction. Now, the reason this must be an off-world intelligence is because it's not aliens doing this to humanity, it's other human beings, but I think they're captured in a spiritual sense by a very, very dark evil force. Because what on earth could explain human beings doing this to other human beings, Anna?
Absolutely. So first of all, I agree with you. I've said the first time when I looked at the COVID shots that this technology isn't from here. Then if you look at the Disclosure Project by Dr. Stephen Greer, there have been testimony from military officers, for example, someone who had 38 levels above top secret clearance, who, for example, worked for the NRO, National Reconnaissance Organization, which on extraterrestrial projects, they have disclosed, and this was testimony before Congress, that over 100 downed alien spacecraft have been reverse engineered and captured, and that one of the things that the technology that was reverse engineered was number one, microelectronics, fiber optics, night goggle vision, and many other things, including anti-gravity propulsion system, which we know the Nazis had. But what is so important in regards to the microelectronics was that in some of the reports, it clearly discussed that the pilot, some of them that were captured alive, that their interaction with the spacecraft was actually through a type of a neural link technology. And then it was disclosed that these technologies were in the above top secret military programs. They were then released to the military industrial complex, where these were patented and then released to the consumers, including smartphones, for example. So all of this technology was actually reverse engineered. And that this is demonic, absolutely. I've said it, that graphene, there's been even scientific research on this, can cause energy fields that are plasmons, and they were able to lower the vibratory rate and create demons. And I have literally seen people who are demonically possessed, even from shedding, and you can cut that antenna with EDTA, but who are, they're hearing voices, no longer themselves, people who never had a psychiatric illness. So I am absolutely with you, and I think that the ultimate, deep dive digging will show and will have to be full disclosure in terms of who has the military industrial complex actually been collaborating with. What I want to show here is one of the things that they found in the shots. You see these little dots. Well, it turns out this is exactly the micro nanorobots that I've been showing in the blood. And it was very important for them to capture it. It is fluorescent, exactly like what I've also shown. And again, here I want to show that the lanthanide and were used for quantum dots, specifically for fluorescence detection and for bioanalysis. So these are utilized specifically as biosensors. Here, what I want to show is it's well known that EDTA can bind to lanthanides. Gadolinium is a lanthanide. You see here it binds to all of these metals, but there are studies, and I've published those on my Substack, that show that it binds to all of the lanthanides, which I've always said, what we have to do is dismantle the building blocks of the technology, pull out the metals, because without the metals, the technology cannot self-assemble and work. The other thing that can be pulled out, you see here, is uranium, and this is also proof. This is an unvaccinated individual, and I'm pulling this much uranium out there. They were never exposed to radioactive materials. This is being sprayed on us. Remember so the fluorescence of the vaccinated individuals, we've talked about this, and that these filaments were coming out of their skin. This is under UV light, and that these filaments were, reacting to biophotonics and literally, attaching, for example, to the finger. So this is from the vaccinated. And what I've then shown is this is an unvaccinated individual. And in my office, I now screen people with the UV light. So you see the same filament, you see these orange glowing things, and people are kind of dismissing all of this. But I analyze all of these components under the microscope, and what I found is very revealing. So this is the nose fold of an unvaccinated individual. You see these fluorescent dots, and you see here a fiber that's coming out of the skin. And what I did, I scratched one of those dots off, and I took this fiber and I analyzed it under my microscope. And guess what? This is a 4,000 times magnification. So it's extremely high magnification. You can look at the nanoscale, and the filament, they look like absolute computer circuitry. This is with UV light on. You can see that it has a different fluorescence. This is without UV light on. Here's another example. But clearly you can see that the micro robots become part of the polymer filament, and they're used for biocomputing, DNA biosensing. This is this orange dot under the microscope. So it looks like a plastic kind of a thing. It has some dyes in that looked exactly like the rubbery clots that I had also analyzed. Here you can see these nanotechnological fibers in there with some dyes. And I want to remind people of the work of Dr. Hildegard Staninger, world's most eminent nanotechnology, really expert in regards to analysis. This is a 2011 analysis. You see the same material. She analyzed it at a lab, which, by the way, people are always asking me, why haven't you analyzed it? Because the laboratories in the United States are afraid to analyze anything related to the shots or anything in regards to these microchips. I've tried to contact many. They will not do it. They're afraid. So what was found in this stuff was graphite, silicon, sulfur, and a polyamide polymer, which is exactly what we found in the blood. But I just want people to know that this is what a microchip looks like through polymers. And this is where it really gets interesting, again, because people are not believing that the healthcare system is weaponized. Enbrel is an injection produced by Pfizer that is used for autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis. And one of my rheumatoid arthritis patients brought me their injections. I didn't prescribe this, but and wanted me to look at it. And so what I found was, number one, that Enbrel has been studied here, Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, showing that Enbrel contains biosensors and microelectronics. Okay, so they're saying it, not I'm saying it, but I'm finding what they are saying. And here is a drop of this under the microscope, and you can see the same fluorescent particles that are moving. I call them nano and micro robots. So this is this medication when I first put it on the slide. And what's important is, I mean, you see these are ginormous micro robots, and they are emitting bluish light. They're emitting light in different frequencies. So this is something that gets injected into people as a medication, and they're telling you that, yes, we're monitoring you physiologically from the inside through microelectronics, and this is made by Pfizer. So let me show you as a comparison. This is a live blood analysis of an unvaccinated individual, and here you see the same micro robot. It's not somebody who's on Enbrel, and you can see how extremely agile these are. They are controlled by artificial intelligence. They're able to maneuver extremely well through the blood. I mean, I had to move so fast my cursor just to be able to follow them with the microscope, and they're intelligent. So these are literally computer chips that are mobile, that can maneuver and go through the body's blood. And so let me show you what the Enbrel looked like the next day. So I just left it to dry overnight, and these beautiful patterns develop. And you would think, wow, that's really pretty. It's a work of art. Well, it turns out that this particular pattern is actually specifically used as a nano antenna. And if we kind of zoom in a little bit, so you can see it was just a ton of it. Imagine that one drop developed this much technology, which is basically spread in the entire body, and it can fuse with your cells, and people don't know about it. This is a higher magnification, and you can see that these are crystalline structures that are mathematically absolutely organized, and creating very pretty flowers, as it looks like. Let me show you this. This is 2,000 time magnification. Looks like one microchip glued to the other. And then this is what the electronics literature is discussing. So the design of flower-shaped dipole nano antennas for energy harvesting. So this particular design, that's how they look like. This is another part of the Enbrel slide. Look at this pattern and look at this. So what are these plasmonic nanostructures? They're used for biosensing. So they're telling it to you. It develops like nano antennas, and I'm showing it to you. But if it is in Enbrel, I've shown it in insulin, I've shown it in these vaccines. Here it is. This is the other thing that developed, and what this is called, and I've actually had this verified by a nanotechnologist, is liquid crystal nanorods. So they also have self-assembled, and they are also there for biosensing, soft robotics, and they self-organize to and collaborate as biophotonic technology. Here's a mesogen microchip that developed in unvaccinated blood. And again, the reason why I'm harking about it, I am literally an expert in treating vaccine injury in the unvaccinated. You won't believe what I see in the unvaccinated from shedding. This is a biological weapon that affects us all. And the microchips are also assembling. So this thing here is called a mesogenic discoid chip that is made from polymers. And if you see here, this is a higher magnification, all of these wires and these nanorobots. Here it shows you how this stuff self-assembles. So you have initially this material, some of it develops into these fibers, and then the fibers organize just like here, and then they create this discoid mesogen, which is a DNA biosensor. And this is how it really self-assembles. So this is an unvaccinated individual. This was just yesterday that I captured it. And you can see these are all nanorobots. This is blood. I just put it on the slide. And you can see here all of these little tiny robots are moving to self-assemble. I'm going to show you a different video here because this is important for people to understand. This stuff here are robots, and these right here, they're larger, they're sort of in charge, and they are self-assembling this polymer technology device, and they become part of it. So they then are bidirectional telemetry. They become part of this mesogen, which is basically what I found in the blood. Here you see 4,000 time magnification. And so at 4,000 times, I just want to explain, this thing right here is a red blood cells. This is like 5 to 7 micrometers. These little dots here moving are maybe 500 nanometers. I can see in the nanoscale, and you can see how on the nanoscale, extremely small, they are collaborating to basically create this solid mass polymer. They are communicating through light signals, and they are using the blood as an energy source. So they're harvesting the electricity from the red blood cells, and that's how they're fueling themselves to continue to grow this solid object. And that then becomes a microchip that can be used for telemetry purpose. It can be used for, to affect someone, or as a micro weapon target. Any of these things can happen with this. This right here is you can see how now it has almost solidified. It's barely moving, and now you have a full mesogen microchip that's basically self-assembled. And once the this thing is done, then the robots they leave that haven't become part of it, and they go somewhere else and they keep building. And so that's how that works. And I want people to know. So I'm not making this up. I'm showing the exact video footage that I'm seeing in people's blood, and it's in their literature. It's in the warfare literature. And I think that this is really, really important information. I'm using it for the court cases. This is a fully finished mesogen. It is absolutely solidified, no movement seen. And this is how the microchip developed. Can you see it?
Yeah, and this is a blood sample from an unvaccinated person, somebody who did not take the COVID-19 bioweapon, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Can you go back to that slide, the image that you shot of the intelligent nanotech gliding through the bloodstream? Just go back to that. I think you said that was from a person who, I don't know, did you say they had taken Enbrel or not? I think it was previous.
No, it was, they had not taken Enbrel. This one. They're not taking Enbrel. This was just a regular person who came in, and I captured this. And I see this in almost everyone. It's just, to capture the video is just amazing. I mean, look at how intelligent they're moving.
Yeah, and where are they going? So they're navigating through, are those white blood cells or red blood cells?
These are red blood cells, and they're just navigating through the blood, and wherever they are sort of deciding to build something, they stop, and other nanorobots come, and then they build stuff like these mesogens, these microchips.
Oh my God. All right. So just to put everybody's fears at ease a little bit, I haven't interrupted at all because this is just horrifying and I wanted to let you roll, but you were able to get this stuff out of people's bodies using EDTA IV drips and vitamin C. Is that correct?
Yes, and people can take EDTA also orally. There's all kinds of people saying that EDTA is toxic. It's been around for 100 years. I'm a certified practitioner. I've literally treated thousands of people with it. And so what does EDTA do? It binds to metals, like all of the basic structure of these robots. In the middle, in the center of them, they have metals, because that is what their semiconductor properties are built with. If you look at quantum dot literature, they all have metals in them. EDTA also binds to graphene, and the next thing that it does, it gives the stop signal for the polymer replication. So that's been shown. That was in the Moderna patent that says if you combine vitamin C with EDTA, that is the abduction of the nanoparticle self-assembly. And so I've been using it, and at least, symptomatically helping people. At this point, people have so much stuff in their body, and we're inhaling it, we're being bombarded with it, as I showed from the geoengineering, that it's hard to kind of, stay ahead. But this is literally what's been working and what I've been helping people with, and it reverses their heart palpitation, their brain fog, their energy comes back, and so it's been very useful. So that's what I use.
And what are you recommending for people that do need dental work? Where do you go? Do you have to go to Mexico? I've talked to Diane Kaiser about this. There is a clinic, a dental clinic in, I think it's Tijuana, where they guarantee that they use the anesthetic that does not contain all this nanotech. Whereas in the United States, I think all the dentists are using it, whether they know it or not. What do you recommend?
There is no dental anesthetic that doesn't have it. I had one of the doctors, one of the dentists who were doing research for the International Agency for Toxicology and Dentistry. They sent me every anesthetic they had, generic, everything. And I looked at all of them. They all have this stuff, because what they do have is they have a polymer. And if you look at the dentistry literature, they clearly use nanorobotics. And now I have biological dentists. I analyzed oral plaque, and it was full of these micro robots. So basically what I tell my patients is, if you have to get dental work, get it done, and then plan your EDTA IV chelations, because you'll have to clean up the blood afterwards with vitamin C. So that's basically, but I have so many patients who took the dental shots. Even the patient that I showed you with those rubbery clots, after the dental shots, she got so sick and still hasn't recovered in terms of feeling better. So unfortunately, this is warfare, and it's medicine that's used against us.
How many of your colleagues are even aware of this at this point? I mean, what is the great awakening factor as it relates to doctors in this sick system?
There is none. They are intentionally ignoring my work, and I think that it's an absolute crime at this point. I've shown so much evidence. My research is even now in the court system. I mean, I am an expert witness. I've given affidavits, and I've been talking about this forever, and there's absolute silence. And I'm beyond myself, because if you think about that, here's this threat, this is growing in people's body, it's not being addressed. Even many alternative media, they don't talk about the nanotechnology. And when you're not talking about it, you're not warning people about it, then this stuff just continues to self-proliferate, and it's devastating, because it's in everything. We found nanoparticles, studies shown 250,000 nanoparticles per plastic water bottle. It's in the food supply. We showed it was in beef. I looked at even venison, rabbit. I looked at wild animal like squirrel. It's in there everywhere. So I just think that it's very, very tragic. And I just want to end, in terms of the what's been going on legally, just real quick, because there is stuff happening. My colleague, Dr. Joseph Sansone, hold on, for some reason I'm not able to advance it anymore, just because we stopped it, but that's okay. My colleague, Dr. Joseph Sansone, he put the writ of mandamus in Florida. It was denied, but it was then refiled. And Dr. Francis Boyle, who is the law professor who actually wrote the biological weapons laws in 1989 for the United States of America, gave us for this lawsuit an affidavit that declared the COVID-19 shots biological weapons and weapons of mass destruction. This is huge because I myself have given an affidavit in Karen Kingston. And so right now, this is still in the court system, and we're hoping for the best. We're asking for these shots to be eliminated completely. And then also, the national arm, we just put a statement out that declared the WEF, WHO, and United Nations as terrorist organization. Dr. Sansone also had written a resolution, and this was passed in Lee County by the GOP. This is exactly how the ban the jab movement actually started. And I think that we need people to really get up and fight this fight. Go to your number one local prosecutors now, because now that the legal shielding is gone and the vaccine, it's not a legal vaccine, you can now prosecute. And if we cannot prosecute the big Pfizer and all of the big companies, even start with the doctors who gave the shots. And a lot of people don't want to do that, but I want to explain that if you set a precedent and you actually get a doctor or pharmacist convicted for using biological warfare on people, that's a big deal. And somehow we need to break through in this system. With the whistleblower information from New Zealand that showed, for example, one practitioner had, I believe it was about 1,200 patients, and over 300 of them died. Imagine just for a moment that if a doctor would have pulled a gun and shot 300 people, that doctor would be in jail now. But what they did was they gave without consent a biological weapon that actually executed these people. And at some point, we have to break through. Same thing with the pilots who are spraying this geoengineering spray. Some of them are actually, aircraft that are commercial. It's also military. But if anybody knows of somebody who's spraying this stuff, they're killing us. We need to sue them for murder and genocide. And so this is what National Arm is trying to do and working on. We've delivered 25 grand jury petitions for crimes against humanity now to 25 states already, asking the governors and the attorney generals to prosecute for genocide and murder and take these shots off. But people need to get involved. So I just think it's super important.
Is National Arm the National American Renaissance Movement?
Yes, exactly. So I'm a board member there with David Meiswinkle, Joseph Samson. You've had us on your show before. And yes, absolutely. So we are involved in these legal actions, and we're endeavoring to do what we can. And the grand jury petition and the lawsuit, they all contain my research as evidence. And I've given sworn affidavits for the court case in Florida because, these prosecutors need to look at these. These are crimes against humanity. You cannot deny what I showed you today. And you cannot dismiss it because, again, there's too much evidence for it.
Yeah. Well, the reason I asked that is I want people to be able to find it. Don't use Google. Watch what happens if you search National Arm on Google. Check this out. Army National Guard. I mean, it's a joke. National Revolutionary Army from Wikipedia. I mean, it's just an absolute joke. And then if you type in the exact same thing on Bing, the website for National Arm comes up. We got to stop using Google. They are the enemy of humanity, friends. And Ray Kurzweil, by the way, is tied very closely to the board at Google. He is let's just say he is a AI consultant, at the very least, to Google, one of the worst, most evil corporations on planet Earth. How do we literally support your efforts? I guess you just said, I mean, is National Arm the best way to support what you're doing, Anna?
Yeah, so national arm is, to support us. That will be great, particularly if people are willing to donate, and then spread our word because also, my Substack, Anna Mihalcea, MD, PhD.substack.com, I endeavored to bring really high quality research that's unimpeachable. I always, whatever I publish, I say, I can swear and testify to this in a court of law. But people need to be informed because still there's only pockets of people that are aware. And I've told you earlier, the technocratic transhumanists, their stealth warfare is to do this nanotechnology, transformation of humanity. And it will be too late if we don't tell people, to use EDTA, vitamin C, methylene blue also helps, and these antioxidants. And look at your blood because the people are not aware that they're changing, but they're being transformed via the electronics in their system.
I think that might be my lead soundbite. I mean, that is the best summary of what we're up against. And it's an absolute horror show. It really is off-world intelligence embodied by human beings who worship a very dark power. That's what we're up against. And they are actively working to depopulate the entire planet. And I had no idea that Pfizer's Enbrel was just more of the same. I mean, is it an mRNA medication, or does it just have components of this in it? Because I don't think anybody's getting informed consent when they take Enbrel.
No, so it is not mRNA. So that's what I'm saying. I found it in dexamethasone, which is a steroid. I found it in all insulins, have these electronics in there. So any of these injectables, the healthcare system is using biosurveillance technology. It's an Adderall, which is also a pill for attention deficit disorder. So people are swallowing these robotics and they stay in the body. And they told you that they were going to do it and they're doing it, but the doctors don't know about it and the doctors are in denial about it.
My God. My God. And if the doctors don't stand up, this system, which is now being implemented, will throw them under the bus. They're not going to have jobs. I mean, at the beginning of your presentation, you basically said that is the goal of this nanotech plantation, is for all medicine and all medical service delivery to happen internally under their control, the control of these Luciferian depopulationists. I mean, if doctors don't stand up now, they're just going to lose their jobs anyway, Anna.
It's worse. It is artificial intelligence that will supersede humans. And this is where the extinction level threat comes in. Even Elon Musk said AI is more dangerous than nukes. And I agree. And they've fused AI with quantum computing. And so now this will be in charge of this massive data that is being captured by humans or from humans. So people absolutely need to be aware and stand up and fight for their lives. It can't be just a handful of people. It has to be everybody.
Couldn't agree more. Well, let me show the Substack here. People need to subscribe. People need to support you because, of course, this information is being ignored from the likes by the likes of CNN and MSNBC and the Washington Post, who are in on the depopulation plan, I assure you. So that's Dr. Anna's Substack, guys. Sign up, support the doc. Thank you so much, Anna. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you so much, Sean. Take care.
Right. Yeah, stay on the line. I want to get you scheduled again. And I would just add that in addition to the EDTA IV drips with vitamin C to get this technology out of your bloodstream, the scientific data is clear that Masterpiece, the nano zeolite-based product, is doing the same thing. It will get the nanotech and the heavy metals out of your blood safely. I'll leave the link to Masterpiece below. And just one last word. I'll remind you guys every single day for free. Check us out to get the real news, the antidote to corporate propaganda and all of those mockingbird mainstream media Pfizer lies 24/7 at sgtreport.com. Until next time, God bless you and yours. Bye-bye.
This could happen to any of them. The executive privilege in that respect is gone. And what we are talking about is war crimes. These are legitimate allegations to be made and to be proven. And upon such proof, upon such a conviction, none of them are safe.